Good evening, Chicago. Welcome back in to Chi-Town Weekly. Back on our regular Monday night spot. Wow. What a weekend, huh? The Cubs still aren't done with theirs yet. They decided to play an extra game today out in San Diego against the Padres. The Sox swept the Tigers in a 3-game series. So much to talk about there. One of the weirdest, wildest, wackiest ways to get a win on Saturday that you'll probably ever see. A walk-off grand slam yesterday. Liam Hendriks getting his first strikeout since beating cancer. So much to talk about from that White Sox game. The Sky, the shorthanded Chicago Sky, had a 19-point come-from-behind win against the WNBA super team in the New York Liberty. And oh yeah, the Bears are apparently going to figure out a way to screw up this stadium situation one way or another. What a crazy weekend it was. I don't know if an hour is going to be enough time to talk about everything that's just happened in the Chicago sports world in the last 3 days. But we're going to try our darndest to do it. You have found your way to Chi-Town Weekly. Buckle it on up. Let's go for a ride. And hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome back on in to Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I am your host, Adam Karnick, back with you on our regular night and time. Thanks to everybody that tuned in to last week's episode, which was last week Sunday. A little bit different of an episode there. My wife and I broke down one of our favorite Chicago sports movies, Rookie of the Year, celebrating its 30th anniversary a little bit later this summer. So I had my wife on for a special episode here last week, and we had some fun talking about that. But we will be back to our regular type of episode here tonight. Lots of news, lots of analysis, lots of things to be breaking down and reacting to from the Chicago sports world. But of course, we can't go any further before, of course, we get our homework out of the way. IE Sports Radio is available for you on all of the major social platforms, whether it is Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. Just search at IE Sports Radio. You can also go to our website, iesportsradio.com, and keep up to date on everything happening there as well. For the last 9 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. All the while, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and with your help, we are ready to take the next step. When you go to our website, iesportsradio.com, you'll see our Patreon link with 5 different tiers. The first one starting at just $5 a month. This donation gets you a shout-out on every single one of our shows. Higher tiers include IE Sports Radio merchandise, access to our podcasting university, and even a chance to be featured on a segment of our flagship show, The Defining Moment. Thank you all very much for continuing to make IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. And I want to take a moment now to thank our Patreon supporters, Bay Area Raised, Emlos Great, Key to the Gate, and Anonymous. Thank you for your support. It does things like allow us to do live calls of games. I'm actually going to be doing that as soon as we are done here tonight. I'm going to be heading over to our Mixlr account, and I will be doing a live call of the Cubs-Padres series, and season series finale as the Cubs go for the series win tonight, try to take 3 out of 4 from the Padres. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on to close out the show. So thank you to our Patreon supporters. That allows us to do things like that, plus just other things around the network. The network is booming and expanding. We've got some new shows in some familiar places, but also some new shows in some new places that are going to be coming up. You'll get to hear about some of those later on tonight as well. So lots of things going on with the IE Sports Radio family. This show is available for you on Twitter as well, at IESRC, or you can follow along with me on Twitter. I am at Adam_Karnick. And for those of you who are listening live here on Monday night at 7:06 in the Spreaker app, hop on into the chat room. It's free. There's no cost. You will not get spammed with a bazillion emails, I promise. You create a little username for yourself, and you can interact with us in the chat room. Taryn Rodriguez is there already. Good evening, Taryn. Nice to see you. Or if you're listening later on in the week, whether it's Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, iHeartRadio, any of the other platforms from which you're able to hear the show, or if you just simply want to sit back and listen, thank you for making us part of your week. I really do appreciate that. So I want to start the show off tonight with the White Sox. I know that the White Sox have gotten a little bit of slander from me. Slander is a little strong of a word. Have caught a lot of heat from me the last few weeks. Just, not living up to expectations, unfortunately, for a lot of this season. But they had themselves a heck of a weekend this past weekend. They have earned their day off from playing today as they're in New York getting ready to take on the Yankees for a quick 3-game midweek series there in the Bronx. 3 games against the Tigers, took all 3 of them, 3-0 on Friday, 2-1 in extras on Saturday, and then 6-2 yesterday, though that score is slightly misleading because that game required all 9 innings. The White Sox walked it off in the bottom of the 9th. Jake Burger, a walk-off grand slam to get the victory there in that one. 6-2 the final yesterday. The Sox trailed early on yesterday. A home run for the Tigers in the 4th inning gave the Tigers a 2-0 lead, but then the Sox scored the final 6 runs there to get the victory. Jake Burger, his 12th home run of the season. It was his only hit of the afternoon. He hadn't even put a ball in play to that point before getting that one over the left field fence. There were no outs, so as soon as it made it deep enough into the outfield, you knew that it was going to be good enough to at least win the game, but then it cleared the fence and made its way out of the yard. Michael Kopech yesterday gave up the 2-run homer, but other than that, had himself another excellent outing. 7 innings, just the 2 runs on 3 hits, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts for the game for Kopech. Joe Kelly came on, pitched nearly a perfect 8th, just gave up 1 base hit. And then Liam Hendriks ultimately got the win. We'll talk a little bit more about Hendriks here in a minute because, well, we'll get into that here in a minute. But we've got to talk about the game on Saturday here for a minute. I don't think I've ever seen a game end quite like this one did on Saturday. I mean, tell me if you've seen this one. Tell me if you've seen this one before. I know I hadn't. Bottom of the 10th inning, the winning run is on third base. The pitch comes in Jose Cisnero makes the pitch. It's a wild pitch. It bounces off the umpire's mask and goes up the first baseline and allows for Yoan Moncada to score. Meanwhile, the umpire is down in a heap behind home plate. The Sox really couldn't get into a proper celebration because everybody rightly had to check on the home plate umpire, Corey Blazer, and make sure he was okay. And then once, all right, he's okay, then the Sox could celebrate. But that was a crazy game on Saturday. 2-1 the final. All 3 runs scored on wild pitches. Andrew Benintendi scored in the 4th. McKinstry for the Tigers scored in the 6th on a wild pitch from Dylan Cease. And then Yoan Moncada scored the winning run in the 10th inning on a wild pitch. Nobody had an RBI on Saturday. Probably one of the strangest ways you'll ever see a ball game get decided. I mean, you've had walk-off wild pitches before, but to have every run scored via the wild pitch, that's just a strange, just a strange oddity there. The Tigers manager AJ Hinch said after the game that it looked like there was some mixed signals, some trouble with the communication between Cisnero and the Tigers catcher Eric Haas. It looked like Haas may have gotten crossed up, according to AJ Hinch, and it led to the win. You know, it's like in so many things, even in a sport like baseball, communication can still be an important thing, a vital thing there in order to get the win. You can lose a game by mixing up what pitch is coming, which it's very strange that you'd have a mix up in what pitch is coming now that, you know, you're no longer putting signal, you know, you're not putting 1 finger down for a fastball, 2 for a slider, 3 for a changeup, et cetera, et cetera. You know, you've got the pitch comm there that catchers are using now where they just push a button and it tells the pitcher what pitch to throw. So they don't have to worry about people stealing signs. But still, miscommunications and cross-ups can happen. I guess can happen to the best of us, I guess. So, but a big weekend for the Sox. They've earned their day off. I mean, they're still in trouble. They're still 9 games back of the Twins. They're still in 4th place in the American League Central, 5.5 back of the Twins. Another 2 games back of Cleveland and Detroit. You know, still after that sweep, they're still 2 games behind the Tigers at this point. 4 games behind them in the loss column. So, is it the start of a turnaround for the Sox? I don't know. Because they turn around and they've got the Yankees coming up now. You know, and the Yankees are 36-25 on a 2-game winning streak. That American League East is just, my gosh. You know, you're 36-25 and you're 6.5 games out of first place. The American League East is just so strong. But then they come home and they've got the Marlins after that. Marlins are trending in the opposite direction a little bit, so it's possible they could start to turn things around a little bit here. But some tough games coming up for the Sox right now in the early part of June. Needed to get these wins, needed to get that sweep, a much needed a much, much, much needed sweep. And hopefully they'll at the very least be able to avoid getting swept now in New York. Hopefully they'll be able to hold their own a little bit here against the Yankees. I'm taking a look to see the pitching matchups. Giolito goes tomorrow night for the Sox. He will face off with Clark Schmidt of the Yankees. That's would seem to be a favorable matchup for the Sox. Certainly not one where you're thinking, oh man, they're completely out of it. Lance Lynn will go on Wednesday. The Yankees have not declared who's going to start in that game yet. And then you have in the finale on Thursday to be Mike Clevenger going up against Luis Severino. So it's possible, they, especially depending on who the Yankees decide to go with on Wednesday, they certainly can be in. They certainly can be in all of those games. They're going to need to have some good performance from their bats, from their gloves. That offense of the Yankees, you can't fool around with them. You can't mess around with that and give them extra outs or things like that. You're going to need to play cleanly behind your pitchers. But their starting pitching staff, it at least matches up that they shouldn't be completely out of any of the games at least. So we'll see what can happen for the Sox. One other team that had an excellent close to the weekend. A little bit of a rough week last week, but an excellent close to the weekend. The Chicago Sky. The Sky had a tough loss early last week. A tough loss in Atlanta, 83-65. A tough one to the Atlanta Dream. Then turned around and hosted the New York Liberty, one of the WNBA's two super teams. Breanna Stewart comes over, and then, of course, the other big name for the Liberty, of course, is Courtney Vandersloot. Vandersloot got to have her return to Chicago last week on Friday, and she had herself a good game. She had a very Courtney Vandersloot kind of game. 8 points, 8 assists. She is the assist queen. The Sky unfortunately lost the game Friday by a point, 77-76. Very back and forth. Unfortunately, they had the lead late and could not make it stick. Could not make it hold up. They did lead with just 4 minutes to go. Under 4 minutes to go in the game, they had a 4-point lead, but unfortunately, they could not make it stick. Had a 2-point lead with under a minute to go, but just unfortunately could not make it hold up. Breanna Stewart got the winner. But they made up for it then on Sunday. They absolutely made up for it on Sunday. The Sky trailed by as many as 19 points in the third quarter against New York. It looked like this one was going to be over. And nobody would really blame the Sky because they're shorthanded. They're down to, right now, they have 8 players that they're able to play. They lost Rebecca Gardner last week, so they're now down to just 8 players on the roster right now. But Kalia Copper put the team on her back, and Chicago had an authoritative win yesterday, 86 to 82. The Sky improved to 4-3 and hand the Liberty just their second loss of the season. And now they get to turn around, and this week they've got Indiana. They're out in Los Angeles. And then they have a doozy of one on Sunday. This coming Sunday, they will be in Las Vegas to take on Candace Parker and the undefeated Las Vegas Aces. So a couple of more great matchups this week upcoming for the Chicago Sky. But once again, James Wade's crew is showing that they're tougher than people thought. They may be undermanned. They may not have the stars that they had the last couple of years, but do not look past them. Look past Chicago at your own risk there in the WNBA. So some good things ultimately coming from the Chicago Sky over the weekend as well. One thing that was not good over the weekend, unfortunately, was some talk about where the Chicago Bears might next be calling home. I'm starting to get a little nervous about this, guys. I will explain that next here on the other side of this break. You are listening to Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Well, what is up, Carolina Nation? This is John Felipe of the Carolina Cast, of course, the podcast of, by, and for the Carolinas, right here on IE Sports, your direct feed for all that is sports. And I'm reminding you to tune in Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern for the latest in Carolina sports, whether it's the Panthers that keep on pounding, the fly natures of the Hornets, the storming Hurricanes, the battle of the Blues with Duke and UNC, the fight of the Clemson Tigers, or the amazing atmosphere of any Carolina college. I'm talking App State, I'm talking ECU. I've got you covered. Once again, tune in for the Carolina Cast with me, John Felipe, Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Everybody, this is Taryn Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunder Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey USRN fans, do you have a product or company you're trying to promote? Look no further. USRN is teaming up with small local businesses trying to establish themselves via online promotion. Let us know if you're interested. Email us at usrnradio@gmail.com to learn more.
Hey sports fans, are you in the market for Florida sports or just keeping up with the latest in the Panhandle? Palm Tree Sports is a dedicated audio hub to all things sports in the Sunshine State. We cover current events, big news, heavily favored opinions all across the NFL, NBA, MLB, and so much more. So come check us out every Saturday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For a down south education on Florida sports and athletics, it's hosted by yours truly, Corey Pujols, and is powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
All right. Welcome to AZ Sports Daily. I'm your host, Kieran Daly, bringing the heat to Arizona sports. There's no discrimination here. We're going to talk about every sports team, professional and college. The show is all about you, the listener. I'm here to entertain you. Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here? It's going to be fun, high energy. You may not agree with what I say. That's okay. Let me hear you. Let's talk about it. Join me every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here on AZ Sports Daily. That's AZ Sports, Daly, and at IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Kieran Daly, one of the newest hosts here on IE Sports Radio, talking all things Arizona sports. He's going to be making his debut, I believe, later this week. Let me double check that schedule real quickly. Whoops, Yes, he's going to be making his debut later on this coming Wednesday, 10 o'clock Central Time, Wednesday night. You will hear Kieran Daly and AZ Sports Daily this coming Wednesday. So be sure to stick around for that on Wednesday, checking out all things. At 10 o'clock. This coming Wednesday, so stick around to check that out. The Diamondbacks, I know the Cubs and the White Sox will be having some dates upcoming with the Arizona Diamondbacks, and the Bears, of course, will be playing the Arizona Cardinals this season, so plenty to talk about there. Speaking of the Bears, they did not have themselves a particularly good weekend. It was certainly notable. It was certainly memorable. In the midst of all the organized team activities and the practices that are going on and all the wonderful accolades that people are singing about them, you've got Adam Rank of NFL.com boldly predicting that the Bears are going to go 12-5 this year, which I'm all for it. I love it. I'm not ready to make such bold predictions on the season, but I get it. You know, it's half the fun of these kinds of things. So I got no problem with it. Let's revel in our fandom a little bit there, Mr. Rank. But then comes news over the weekend that apparently the Bears are no longer 100% focused on Arlington Heights as the site of their next stadium. Word came through that they are apparently considering some alternative sites. And then word came out that that the mayor of Naperville has already reached out to the Bears and has extended his city's invitation to be the new home of the Bears. And then I heard this morning that The Bears are having some discussions with the new Mayor Johnson in Chicago to look at some alternative sites inside the city to stay within the city borders of Chicago. Notably, though, I did hear reported this morning that Soldier Field is out. That the Bears will not be continuing at Soldier Field past their current lease. That at the very latest, when this lease is up, they are done at Soldier Field. That ship has sailed, and we've talked about that already, of why the Bears want to be out of Soldier Field, and it makes sense. So what the heck happened with Arlington Heights? They just bought the property. They're actively looking at demolishing it right now. In fact, they are actively demolishing the racetrack right now. They're paying to have the grandstand and some of the office buildings on the racetrack demolished to begin the process of preparing the site for a stadium. So what gives here? Well, apparently, what has the Bears up in arms is that the property taxes on the racetrack spiked significantly. That the Cook County tax assessor, every time I heard that, of course, I immediately thought of Steven Spielberg's cameo at the end of Blues Brothers, sitting there munching on his sandwich as Jake and Elwood plop him up on the desk to pay off the taxes for the orphanage. But apparently, when the Cook County tax assessor came out here recently, the taxes were in the neighborhood. The property value taxes apparently were about 5 times higher than they were just a couple years ago. And so the Bears are now saying that it's too expensive, that they can't afford to pay the taxes on the property and also pay to build the stadium. And that if they want to have the stadium there, there's going to have to be a discussion about lowering those taxes. Part of me gets it, part of me doesn't. The Bears are saying, look, the number that you're assigning to the value of this property is based on when it will actually be ready to be used. But we're not anywhere near that yet. We have to do a ton of demolition. Then we have to come in here and we have to clean everything up. And then we can build the infrastructure, the stadium, the hotels, everything that we're looking to build. And then once it's ready to be used, then you can actually tax us at this amount, because then we'll actually be bringing in revenue for it and it'll actually be a functional piece of property. But as it is right now, it's not functional, so you shouldn't be taxing us at that rate. And I did hear this morning on the radio on my way into work, I heard that actually for NFL teams and even in other leagues as well, teams that own their own stadiums, it is a rarity for them to pay any property taxes, much less high property taxes. The ones that do have to pay property taxes, they tend to be very low and they tend to be fixed. They tend to not go up over time. So part of me understands where the Bears are coming from. Another part of me, a not insignificant part of me, is saying, gee, I I wish I could just declare what I want my property taxes to be simply because I can. Or I could just up to threaten and move. That you want to talk about first world problems here, Bears. So I understand where they're coming from, but at the same time, I find it very, very, very hard to sympathize. You know, part of me just wants to say, look, that's what happens when you own your own place. The benefits are going to way outweigh the negatives of you having to pay property taxes. Join the rest of the country, you know. But the other thing that this brought to my mind, and it frankly, it scares me a little bit. I don't like, as soon as I thought of it, it was, oh no, what could be happening here? They're going to screw this up. I know it. Is these are still, you know, for as much as the Bears as an organization have grown here in the last several years, you know, bringing in Ryan Poles to be the general manager, and so far that seems to be absolutely a solid move for the team, for the organization. Then they followed that up by bringing in Kevin Warren to be the new CEO. And my gosh, what a huge step up from Ted. No offense to Ted Phillips, but what a huge step up from Ted Phillips. You know, to have an honest to goodness intelligent football person at the very height of the organization, and somebody who has done the things that the Bears are looking to do. It's still the McCaskies that own the team, and this is still a McCaskey-run organization, which could lead to disaster here. You know, I'm reminded of, and I know I've told this story once. It's probably just about a year ago when things were getting actually serious, that, you know, the Bears were going to be getting the racetrack in Arlington Heights, and it wasn't just idle rumor. You know, I was reminded of in the early 90s when the Bears were so foolishly and desperately and poorly trying to get out of Soldier Field. And the city rightfully looked at him and said, you don't have any money. Where are you going to go? You know, and you had anything from, you know, going up to Arlington Heights to even going out to Gary and being the Gary Bear, you know, the Gary, Indiana Bears. And then the story of when Ed McCaskey had a sit-down meeting with Mayor M. Daley and tried to get him to condemn the property that is now United Center so that he'd be able to purchase it for a heavy discount and put a new stadium for the Bears there, not realizing that Rocky Wirtz, the owner of the Blackhawks and a major political ally of the Daley family, owned that property and would never allow the mayor to do that, would fight tooth and nail. And as a direct result, we now have United Center. So, on the one hand, I am encouraged that this is now Kevin Warren in charge of this operation, but I'm still frightened because the McCaskies are enough in charge still that they could figure out a way to screw this up. You'd think that anything that the NFL does, it's such a machine, it's almost foolproof. But I still feel like if there was a family that could figure out a way to screw up a stadium in the NFL, it's the McCaskey family. I hope that's not the path they're headed down, but it's still, I'm a little nervous. I'm a little worried, to say the least. We're going to take one more quick break, and then when we come back, we are going to do a little bit of preview. The Cubs and Padres finish up their 4-game set here in just about 20 minutes. We will preview the finale of that series right here on Chi-Town Weekly, here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What up, Boston sports fans? This is Mikey Two Guns here, your host of Our Bleepin' City, airing every Wednesday night from 7 to 8 p.m. right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Please join me. We'll talk everything Boston sports, all the local teams, college teams. I'm even down to talk MMA, boxing, whatever you guys want. So join me every Wednesday night, 7 to 8 p.m. Chime in with your questions on the chat, tweet the show. We'll even have call-ins. I can't wait to hear from you guys. This is going to be a lot of fun. So once again, it's Our Bleepin' City. I am your host, Mikey Two Guns, every Wednesday night from 7 to 8 p.m. right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. See you soon, people.
Hey there, sports fans. Are you looking for a sports show that maybe isn't 100% about sports?
Then you might want to check out the Sports Couple Perspectives right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Most sports shows cover only scores and stats, and while we're not opposed to that, we dig a little deeper into sports issues and some of the hottest topics in athletics.
In addition to sports, we take a journey through my neck of the woods, pop culture, with movie reviews of both sports and non-sports films.
Speaking of pop culture, make sure to participate in our game nights, where we quiz each other on our specialties, and you, the listeners, can win IE Sports Radio apparel.
We always have a great time learning more about each other's worlds, one show at a time.
So join us each week on the Sports Couple Perspectives, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the 08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies.
And your one-timers.
You wicked wristas.
And be sure to protect your 5-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
Hello, sports fans. It's me, your boy Larry B, and I want to walk you through the world of sports. No, not just the mainstream major TV deal type sports, although those are important too. But let me be your guide through your journey of all sports, from college to the pros, the minors, and everything in between. Each week, we are talking sports galore with true diehards just like you, from a hardcore fan's perspective that's sure to quench your thirst around leagues you may know all too well, and some you may even discover here. That's right, sports fans. If you love sports of all kinds, enjoy hearing amazing sports stories, and respect all sports, because you know how difficult any of them can be to play or compete in, then this is your show. Join me, your boy Larry B, on The Defining Moment each week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and let the sports come to you.
IE Sports Radio fans, it's your boy, the SoCal Saint, the host of the premier professional wrestling podcast online today, the IE Elite Wrestling Show. If you're a fan and have a passion for the world of professional wrestling, this is the show for you. I take you inside the ropes with all the athleticism, high-flying, and hard-hitting action, and then we take it backstage with all the backstage drama and backstabbing that goes on in the world of professional wrestling today. If something's going on in the world of professional wrestling, rest assured, the SoCal Saint knows what's going on, and he's going to let you know too. If you're a fan, check us out every Tuesday, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, only on IE Sports Radio. The IE Elite Wrestling Show, your direct feed for all that is professional wrestling, on the only network that is your direct feed for all that is sports. Check us out.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Adam Karnick with you here for just a few more minutes. We'll probably go for about another 6-7 minutes or so. We'll wrap up a little early tonight before we turn things over to Taryn Rodriguez and Set Point. That's because I am not done talking for the night. I will actually be hopping on over to our Mixlr account, Mixlr.com. Just search IE Sports Radio on there, and I will be doing the live call for the Cubs game tonight. Cubs-Padres, the finale of a 4-game set out at Petco Park, the Bark Park, tonight out in San Diego. So I thought we'd wrap up the show previewing that a little bit. Cubs have took 2 out of 3 in the series to this point. Marcus Stroman, an outstanding job yesterday against the Padres. He was phenomenal last week, Monday, on Memorial Day against the Tampa Bay Rays. What a job for Stroman. the last couple of times out, he has clearly shown that he is the team's ace, so much so that he actually was named the National League Player of the Week for last week. 15 innings pitched in his went the distance against the Rays, got the complete game shutout in that one, and then he followed that up by going 6 very strong innings yesterday against the Padres. Gave up 1 run. It was unearned. Struck out 6, walked 3, just 4 hits allowed. So in his 2 starts last week, 15 innings pitched, 14 strikeouts, no earned runs allowed. Tremendous job. So Marcus Stroman, the National League Player of the Week last week. The Cubs yesterday, Yan Gomes, Trey Mancini hit back-to-back home runs. Miguel Amaya got his first major league home run yesterday. All 3 of those guys are back in the lineup tonight. So we will be seeing them. We'll see if they can keep that hot streak going. Gomes is the designated hitter tonight. He's not catching. Miguel Amaya is going to be handling the catching. We'll do the lineup for you real quick. Nico Horner will lead off and play second. Dansby Swanson will bat second and play short. Ian Happ third, playing left. Seiya Suzuki cleaning up and playing right field. Patrick Wisdom playing third base and batting fifth. Yan Gomes batting sixth. He's the designated hitter tonight. Trey Mancini batting seventh, playing first. Miguel Amaya will be doing the catching and batting eighth. And then Christopher Morel is pulling things up ninth and playing center field. Kyle Hendricks on the bump tonight. The professor looking for his first win of the season, his third start of the year since returning from surgery from a year ago. So Kyle Hendricks on the hill tonight, bringing all the different changeups and different looks and angles, trying to get his first win of the night. He will be opposed tonight by Blake Snell, the left-hander. Snell, just 1 win on the season, and he has struggled this season overall. He's got an ERA of over 4.5, and that's actually better. At home, he's even worse. His ERA is north of 5. So hopefully the Cubs will be able to take advantage of Blake Snell tonight and get the win. They did face Snell earlier this season. Back in April, the Cubs got the win in that game. Oh, Mike C. joining us in the chat. The new host of our Boston show, Our Bleepin' City. He's done a couple of shows already and doing excellent work. How do I feel about the universal DH? To me, the universal DH makes a lot of sense, Mike. There is very much a part of me, though, that does miss the things like double switching and the strategy of, hey, are you gonna keep are you gonna keep your starter out there? It's a 1-run game, and his spot is due up here. He's dealing a hot hand. He's doing great, but we're also, we're in the 5th, 6th, 7th inning. Do you let the pitcher bat one more time, or do you pinch hit for him because you need a hitter at the plate right now and trust the bullpen? So I do miss some of the strategy things involved that have been lost with the universal DH, but overall, it just makes sense. I mean, anymore, the National League was literally the only place outside of high school that you were seeing pitchers bat. Obviously the American League has had the designated hitter for years. Every stage of the minor leagues was using the designated hitter because the minor leagues aren't segregated National League, American League. You'd have the Kansas City Royals farm team taking on the Chicago Cubs farm team all the time. So every stage of the minors would be using the designated hitter. College is using the designated hitter. Literally the only place you'd see it was in the National League. So it was almost abnormal to see it anymore. So it makes sense to use the universal DH. I think it does far more good than bad to have it, but there are some trade-offs. There are certainly some trade-offs with it. But Cubs, they've taken the first 2 of 3 from the Padres in this series. They've already won the series. They've taken 4 out of 6 so far from this series from the Padres. We'll see, though, if they can get the extra one tonight and take this series overall, take 3 out of 4. All right, that is going to do it for our show here tonight. We're going to wrap up here just a couple of minutes early. That way I can catch a real fast break before I switch over to Mixlr and begin calling Cubs Padres. That'll be coming up right at the top of the hour here in just a couple of minutes over on Mixlr. Coming up here next on Spreaker, though, it is Taryn Rodriguez and Set Point breaking down everything happening in the world of volleyball. Taryn had a little bit of an easier weekend in that I believe the National Volleyball Association had the weekend off, but that doesn't mean that Taryn wasn't busy with other things. Oh no, that just means he wasn't away somewhere covering events. He had more time to prepare notes and dive all around the country and get everybody caught up and up to date on everything happening across the volleyball world, so be sure to stick around for that. If you want to hear me next, I will be next on tomorrow night with Zach Puplis. Just about this time tomorrow, about 24 hours from now, on the Neutral Zone, Zach and I will be breaking down Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final going on right now between the Las Vegas Golden Knights and the Florida Panthers. Vegas currently up 2-0. So we'll be breaking that down, plus Game 1 from over the weekend, other hockey news and things there. Lots to be keeping up with. Thank you to everybody. First of all, thank you to our Patreon supporters, Bay Area Raised, Emlo's Great, Key to the Gate, and Anonymous for everything that you guys do, allowing us to keep the lights on here and to do things like live calls and other things like that. Thank you to Larry B., the guru, the czar of all things IE Sports Radio. Oh, thank you. Yes, next week there will not be a Chi-Town Weekly on Monday next week. I will be on the road driving back from Minnesota, so nobody wants me to do a show while I'm driving. That just won't end well. We might fit in a little bit of something quick during the week, but chances are the next show will be 2 weeks from tonight. So until then, everybody be safe, be healthy. We will see you next time.